Stay ready is the mentality birthed through the trials and triumphs of life as an NFL long snapper. Join me in conversations with teammates, mentors, friends, and family who help me realize that stay ready is so much more. A deeply rooted principle of life in all things faith, family, and football. Brother, welcome to Stay Ready, the podcast, the very first episode. I'm so grateful that you're here, man. This has been a work of progress for quite some time. You and I have known each other for a handful of years now, but probably the past year you've been hearing about me wanting to start a podcast, right? And we finally are doing it, getting it off the ground. And when I was making my list of like who I wanted to sit down and talk to, man, you were like the first person that came to my mind because you have an incredible testimony, you have an incredible story to share, and I want to hear more about it. And then also, like, you've been with me now, on a more personal level for the past few years, starting in 2020 in quarantine, right, where gyms were shut down. You were my trainer. I reached out to you. But before that, like, when I got released from the Colts, I went to Sparta gym, and you were there training high school guys at the time. That's where we initially met. So you've kind of been, like, whether you know it or not, you've been a pretty, you played a big role in my life when it came to, like, training, preparing, and staying ready for an opportunity, man. So, we have a much stronger relationship and friendship now than we did back in Indy. And we're going to share how you made your way to Nashville from Indy. But, man, I'm so grateful that you're here and excited to share your story with others because, man, you have a powerful one. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Justin Todd here, who is an elite trainer here in Nashville. And, man, welcome.
Thank you so much, man. I'm excited to be here. I'm thrilled for you and honored that you have asked me to be on the first one. And, yeah, you've been talking about it, and now you're getting it done, and I cannot wait. Your story is incredible. The perseverance that you've had through your career. I mean, you've been told no, you've been told see you bye by a few people, and you just keep coming back. And I think that's what Stay Ready stands for, big time to you. And I've watched you live it, and I can't wait for people to hear it.
No, well, thank you so much, man. And like I said, you have a story too, man, and it's all about sharing it. And hopefully people are willing to listen, right? And so that's why we have these sit-down conversations in a more intimate setting. And man, let's get into it. Let's go back to 2017. 2017 in Indianapolis, where you're originally from, on the north side, Carmel. And that's you and I met. I got released in the spring of 2017 from the Colts. And for me, that became like a really personal, just whirlwind, right? I just got sideswiped by the decision the Colts released me. I was in a weird kind of season of my life because of that transition, just having my career literally like kind of stripped away from me. And then also, like, when I lost that identity with the Colts, it was kind of weird because then I just was like seeking help from other places, and I landed at Sparta in Fishers, which was a big indoor facility where they had indoor turf and a lot of space for training. And I just walked in there one day and asked Brian, right, the owner,
Brian Griffiths,
if I could just snap in there, and I was snapping into the nets and to little targets and whatnot. And then I saw you train, and that's kind of where we initially met.
Right.
But to go from there, I think over time, you were asking me about what I was doing. I told you that I just moved to Nashville, and I think that kind of piqued your interest a little bit about maybe possibly moving down there looking for an opportunity, right? And I think that's kind of where the seed was planted to get down here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that, and then Kevinlugman came in with Sam Hunt,
Yeah.
and he had asked me to move down to Nashville, and I knew that you had a connection down here, and you had great things to say about Kevin, and so I said, let's pull the trigger. And so I moved down to Nashville in 2017, October of 2017.
Yeah. Shout out Kevinlugman, man. So Kevin, just a little background on him. So small world. Kevin and I, we have mutual friends. My buddy Junior played with him and Matt, who are like kind of partners in the business, and they're like a mobile trainer. So they pack up all the equipment into a van. They show up to your house, in your driveway, your garage, a park, or wherever. And I was training with Kevin that off season, and when I came down to Nashville for the first time, and we were doing like sled pulls and sprints and deadlifts in literally a parking lot.
There's some bad dudes, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
man,
it's some of the hardest workouts you ever do.
Yeah, they get after it, and he's got a huge clientele now. And you mentioned Sam Hunt, so he's been a big trainer with like Sam, and I know he's like trained like Luke Holmes and those guys. But he was like, kind of like a traveling trainer. And when Sam was on tour, they came through Indianapolis, and Kevin reached out to me about a place to train because those guys train and get after it. And so they came to Sparta, and that's where you met Kevin for the first time. And I just kind of plugged you guys there, and it was so cool, man, to see how, at the time you were young, right, fresh out of college, and you just kind of went on a whim and said, I'm going to move to Nashville, because I mean, Nashville, the scene here is a lot different from Indy. It's 4 hours away, but I feel like your career, in a sense, has definitely flourished here. Probably a little bit more than maybe you expected, right? Yeah. So talk about your transition from Indy to Nashville, kind of how you started into training, a little like your background with football, where you are now currently, and just kind of the growth you've really, I mean, I've seen the growth, but maybe you share the growth with us personally from 2017 to now 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back even before that. So when I was finished playing football, I had the same thing. I had that loss of identity. We can get into my more testimony in a little bit, but training was there for me. And training allowed me to develop a relationship with other people, the community of other people. And that's what allowed me to keep going and really find my purpose, was the people that I got to work with through training, people like yourself. So I get picked up by Brian Griffiths. He puts me under his wing at Sparta. And then I was training a lot of athletes, a lot of youth, all the way up and through to helping with the combine program. And I was even helping college students. They were coming in and interning with me and shadowing myself, and things were going great. But something about going out on the road, maybe training some country music stars, training some athletes, that sounded like an opportunity. And so I wanted to take advantage of that and left that door open and decided to move down to Nashville. And, I never knew that it would take me to where we're at now. And the people that I've gotten to meet and work with, it's been incredible. And they are really, I'm so blessed to work with the people I do. They are literally, they help me with my sobriety. They help me with my life and my purpose. And, I just hope that I'm able to help them just as much as they help me.
No, you're definitely helping a lot of people. And what's cool too is like the wide spectrum of people that you get to help. So you have like your normal day-to-day clients where, these are just, business people or stay-at-home moms or, people that they just come and go naturally from the gym that you're at. But then you're also elite athletes. You got, I mean, I guess you can consider me an elite athlete, but you have NHL players, you've worked with NFL players, you work with my good buddy Luke Rhodes, kind of virtually, long snapper for the Colts, and then you're dabbling in kind of the music scene too, right? Where you're going to studios and record labels and training their staff and training the artists, and so I think it's just incredibly cool to see just the growth you've had in the past, 4 to 5 years, where you're building this client base, you're really touching the lives of so many people in different areas, in different walks of life, and you're doing it at a young age, man. So my hat's off to you. And like you said, you've been sharing your testimony, whether you believe it or not, just by the way you carry yourself daily, you hold yourself accountable, you're on time, you're prompt. And dude, you're so passionate about what you're doing. Like every day, I know you have long days because you start like what? You get about 4 a.m.,
4:30. Yeah.
And your first client is what, 5:30?
Yeah,
and
you're 4:30.
And you may not get home till 8.
7:38.
7:38. And so that's a full day of like pouring into people, which is very, very difficult, man, because not only are you exerting yourself because you work out too and you get after it and whatnot, but like just being mentally present in those moments, it takes a lot, and then just to do it day in and day out. I mean, it's a grind as a trainer, man, so dude, mad respect for you, bro. And I know how much you've helped me personally, just helping me with my strength and my conditioning. But beyond that, just like, lighting a fire in my heart again to like, just keep going after it, man, because, there are days for me where I'm uncertain about the future. I don't know if I'm going to get signed, but man, being around guys like you helped me there's just something about, just the aura you bring in the setting and in the moment, in the training, and just like bringing the passion out of people that that just, I think it allows people just to go full tilt when they're training with you, you know? So
I love that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, bro. And I love, you know, connecting you with other people and the hockey guys, knuckleheads that you help out every now and then. And, you know, Steven Goskowski and guys like that. But man, it's been so cool to see your growth. So maybe talk about a little bit about kind of the training specifically, like what was your training really focused on back in, you know, the 2016, 2017, and now to where you're at now? Like, how have you grown as a trainer specifically with like programming? Because I know a lot of people that may listen to this may be trainers themselves or athletes. And I mean, the fitness industry is always evolving, right? So how have you kind of evolved as well in the industry?
To touch on first, I want to go back, you know, the way that I've been able to grow is people like yourself. And so that's why, real quick, not to put in a little pitch, but it's why my ethos right now, it's greater than one. So it's bigger than myself. It's about the community. And it's about you lighting that fire. It's not about the workouts. It's about what you're able to do outside of that. And so I think if you have a purpose, you know your why, you're able to get so much more out of that. And so that's why I say it's greater than one. And everybody needs that purpose when they go into the gym, that you need something bigger than just the workout. You're going to be able to stick to it. You're going to be able to, you know, go a lot further. And so that's why I've kind of backed that with my ethos is greater than one. But the training has evolved. I go back and I look at my books and I'm like, what was I doing then? But I think you always need to be doing that. If you're not, then you're not growing. And so I think that's one of my mentors. He had said that, you know, you need to be looking back at your books and being like, what the heck? What was I thinking then? That means you're learning and you're moving forward. So I think at times in my life, you know, I started back in, you know, as bodybuilding, and then it's evolved into more powerlifting and more strength. And then it's gotten to the more speed stuff where I'm not doing as much lifting. And then you see the fitness side of things, the fitness industry, and so you're getting more of that, the rah-rah type of stuff. You know, CrossFit's obviously played a big part. Guys like Matt Frazier and Froning, I mean, they're just beasts. You watch them work out, and you're like, oh, I want to look like that. I mean,
but their program is so elite, though,
it's
too.
Very elite.
It's really
cool.
Well,
they do 6 workouts in a day. It's different than what you would do, than what we would do. We're like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day of it. But I kind of describe my workouts now as like a beautiful symphony. Like we start out with the preps work. And there's different phases. There's different buckets that we try to fill. So you got your movement prep where you're foam rolling, and you're getting the fascial work done, and then you're going into your movement prep, so you're, you know, basically activation type work. Your dynamic warm-up comes in there, and then you're going from speed to power, speed, agility, power, and then strength and conditioning is after that. And when I can take somebody, whether it's a push-pull day, whether it's, you know, if I can do the movement prep, the activation, the dynamic warm-up, the speed, and it all be within the same type of movement pattern, that to me is a beautiful thing. So real quick, it would be like activation of like a march, okay? And then it would be the speed work of a sled push and a body weight sprint, right? So same kind of hip flexion movement. And then we go into the power of a single leg box blast, so that same hip flexion, that push off single leg. And then I've got a split squat from the pins and my strength work. And then I'm doing conditioning, maybe some lunge work in between. And so that's a beautiful symphony to me. Obviously, you've got a lateral day in there too that you need to throw in. And so you've got from A to Z, it's the same movement pattern, but working different types of movement. I just love it. And that's where I'm at right now with my training. And it's always going to evolve. I think I'm less lifting right now, more focused on the field work. And getting guys fast.
Well, I think the coolest thing, you know, I've been in athletics and training for such a long time, and it's crazy. Like the programming side of sports, specifically within sports training, has evolved like crazy. I just remember in high school, like, all right, the workout's up on the chalkboard, get after it, right? Like there was no like methodical reasoning for, you know, the reps, the ratios, you know, deloading days and weeks and that kind of stuff, and it was just like, go push as much weight as you can all the time, every day. Run as fast as you can every single day. Like, exert all energy, leave nothing left in the tank kind of thing, right? And that's how it's been forever. I mean, even people that have been training for decades. I mean, that's just how it's been. And now, like, the science behind it has become so readily available because you can look up YouTube videos, podcast, everything's at the palm of your hand with information. But when I look at a trainer, and what I look for in a trainer is obviously the passion has to be there, the knowledge has to be there, but I think it's cool that you can literally do everything you talk about. Because you know what your body's. It's hard to explain a movement or what your body's feeling if you don't know and can feel it yourself.
Right.
So, like, and it's also pretty cool that you compete with your athletes too and your clients. It's like, oh, you're doing 10 pull-ups, I'm going to do 12. I'm going to run faster up this hill than you. And I think it's cool that you actually put yourself out there, because there's been times, honestly, one of my biggest pet peeves, and I've been a trainer myself, and I know how long the days get, but there's been times I've been in gyms and watching, trainers and clients interact, and the trainer's like sitting down, or they don't look very interested in they're just trying to get this client through, so they can move on the next one. And again, I know the days are long and you get tired, but like a good trainer like yourself, a great trainer like yourself, is constantly pouring into individual and not wasting their time.
Right.
So I think that's cool, man. And again, you've built this community at the gym and within your group, and it's become like a family, man. And so cool. And again, I owe you a lot, because it was 2020. I mean, we met back in Indy, but in 2020, my wife and I moved here to Nashville during quarantine because everything was shut down, and we wanted to come down here and experience Nashville. And I remember at the time I was doing strongman lifting. I was weighing 255, which is about 20 pounds over where I'm at now. Dude, I was just out of shape. Right. And I remember hitting you up because all the gyms are closed. And I said, hey, man, are you still in Nashville training? And you were like, yeah, let's meet at the park. And we met there, and I pretty much almost passed out and puked on that first couple days. But just since then, man, like, you have really helped me understand the more mechanics of my body, my movements, what is helpful specifically to long snapping. And just helping me tap into just a different, like, level of grit that I didn't think I had before, because I'm getting older in my profession, and I've actually shied away from lifting heavy because I don't want to get, I didn't want to get hurt. But dude, you flipped that switch on me. I'm like, now I'm trying to be strong. I'm trying to be fast. I'm trying to lean out and be at the best level that I can be. And so you have, like I said, whether you know it or not, you've played a huge role in my life, not just within training in football, but we've grown this friendship. And that's where I really want to segue into your testimony, man, because you have an incredible story, and I want you to kind of take it back. You mentioned sobriety earlier on in this conversation. So that's a big trigger word for a lot of people. Why don't you talk about sobriety? How was alcohol, the role that it played in your life? Take us back to where that really started, and take us on that journey, man, because this is a good story to tell.
You got it. So it started back, I was 18 years old, and I was going to Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts on a scholarship for football. And I got a shoulder surgery the summer before I went out there. And so I had to go late, right? So I couldn't meet up with the guys and do summer camp. And then I come back, so I get there, I'm 16 hours away from home, and I come back from that first shoulder surgery, didn't really know the guys yet. And within the first 2 weeks, I get a concussion, bad concussion. I was out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I come back from that, and I tear my other shoulder. And I didn't tell anybody about it, and I waited for that winter so I could get surgery.
Yeah.
And I come back from that winter, and I remember my mom gave me all of the pain pills for the surgeries, right? But I fell in love with that feeling for whatever reason. Some people hate that feeling. And when they tell me, like, I can't do, oxycodones, hydrocodones, I'm like, I loved it.
Yeah, I get sick.
You get sick to it. You hate it, right?
Yeah.
I wish that was me, right? But I fell in love with that feeling, that it turned off the wheel in my head of that spinning wheel of the fear of failure, the pressure that I put on myself to perform, the pressure to succeed. Because I really had no reason to drink, no reason to drug. Family life, great. Parents, great. That side of things was good. You can't look back and say, well, he did it because of that in his childhood. No, I had no excuse. But it was a fear. So I come back from that surgery, that first semester. I come back for second semester, and in my head, I'm like, well, I'm already going to transfer, so let's go ahead and have some fun. And that just led, one thing led to another, smoking weed every single day, trying new drugs, drinking on the weekends, blacking out.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going back to Indiana. I'm going to Indiana University, so I'll be good. I can do this. But leading up to that year, I had never tried a drug. I had never tried alcohol, nothing.
Yeah.
A little bit, maybe one time senior year after football.
Yeah.
And from there, ended up going to Indiana, didn't get my act together. I kept doing the same thing. And I just was like, no, it's the place I'm at. It's the place. It's the people I'm around. I need to change that. And so November 12th of 2014, my dad knocks at the door. I just finished smoking a joint. And he knocks at the door and he's like, open up. And so I let him in. I was like, Dad, I just smoked a joint. He didn't even know what weed was. And so I had to explain to him what it was. And obviously he knew it was a drug, but he didn't know how any of it worked. So he pulls me out. I'm working at the warehouse the very next day at home. I had to drop out of Indiana. And I get my act together at Ivy Tech. I go to a community college. I start boxing. I did Golden Gloves for a while.
Yeah.
I knew I had wanted to play football again, and so I ended up putting my name back out there for recruiting, get picked up by DePaul University. Coach Bill Lynch from Indiana University, he was now at DePaul. I played D3 ball. Monon Bell game, 17 days before that, I've got pneumonia. I've taken the cough syrup, and my buddy wakes me up, yo, we're going to this frat party. So I start drinking. I wake up in my room back in Carmel. I went to the party at DePaul in Greencastle. I wake up the next day.
And how far is that?
That's an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you have no idea how you got there.
Zero recollection. Obviously, I go back to school. They tell me, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can piece together kind of.
Yeah.
But scared straight.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop me.
Yeah.
I went back to it, and 17 days later, Monon Bell game that night, go out with the alumni, and I'm back in my room in Carmel the next day.
No idea again how you got there.
Zero clue, man.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it.
Yeah.
And coach is like, yo, go get help. You have to. I'm suspended.
Yeah.
He's go get help. You can come back.
So how did you get suspended?
Because I got academic probation the first time I went to the hospital.
Okay.
I got suspended the second time in 17 days.
Okay.
I just turned 21.
Okay.
And
so were you, so is it possible that how you got from DePaul to back home in Carmel, an hour and a half away, were you admitted into the hospital?
Correct.
Your parents had to come pick you up?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how...
They took me, public safety took me to the hospital.
Okay.
My parents came and picked me up and brought me back home.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is, your parents were aware of the situation?
Oh, yeah. They picked me up at the hospital.
Yeah.
And after the next day, I could piece together them being at the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of, once you're told what you did.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys haven't blacked out. But, so then I go to my therapist and I say to him, hey, this is what DePaul says. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
She's like, you can stay at home and do outpatient treatment.
Okay.
And live with your parents, but my parents and we were butting heads. I didn't think I had a problem.
Yeah.
They obviously knew I had a problem.
Yeah.
Or you can go to Montana. And she handed me a brochure with a bear on it and a zip line. And I said, I want to go to Montana. And the parents were all in. They're like, yeah, he doesn't know what this is, but yes, send him there.
Yeah.
26th of December, I fly out there by myself and, they strip search me. They take my phone. They take everything. It's a full-on 60-day inpatient rehab.
So you had no idea?
I had zero clue.
So have you seen the movie Heavyweights?
I don't think so.
It's a Disney movie. Well,
okay.
it's about fat camp, and these kids get sent to fat camp. They think it's a summer camp full of fun, go-karting, jumping on the blob, and all this stuff. But it's kind of, it's not funny, but it reminds me of the movie Heavyweights because these kids literally show up, get strip searched, no snacks, no food, no And they show up the fat camp not knowing, right, it's with Ben Stiller. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But so you literally, they handed you this brochure, sold you a dream, like this is a cool men's retreat in Montana, which is one of the coolest places to visit.
It was.
And you show up like literally just kind of stopped in your tracks like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for.
Not at all. And so I'm trying to convince them to give me the phone so I can call my parents so I can fly back.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you committed to do this.
And this is, you said 60 days?
60 days.
Yeah.
And I'll get into it a little bit, but my dad, they let me have the phone, and my dad said, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. And that's my mantra, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit, 3 times. And I didn't, and I stuck it out, and I'm so glad I did, because I learned about what alcoholism was. I learned about addiction, and it was with a group of 16 to 24-year-old men, boys, and for 17 days they do what's called trip, and for 2 nights and 3 days of that they do what's called solo. So we go out in the backcountry of Montana with cross-country skis. It's in the middle of winter, and all of your supplies and the food and everything, and the fire, the little propane fire.
Yeah.
And you go out with one wilderness guide and one counselor.
Okay.
And you're roughing it, and it's awesome. You've got a tent, and you're just moving around the backwoods.
Yeah.
And for 2 nights, they give you a tarp and a bungee cord, your sleeping bag, the big book, and the 4-step, and they say, write your 4-step. We'll be back in 3 days.
Okay.
So I wake up. There's 2 feet of snow that fell the first night. The second night, there's moose tracks all around my camp.
Wow.
And it's backwoods. You're out there. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And during the summer, they have to have bear spray and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember finishing the 4-step. I was playing baseball. I'd throw up a rock, hit it with a stick to pass the time. And I finished the 4-step. I sit down on the rock, and I'm looking at what's called the sleeping Indian. So it's a rock, a mountain range that looks like an Indian chief sleeping on his back. And I'm looking at that. The sun's going down, and I see a bald eagle. Yeah. And to me, that was God saying, I've got your back. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so ever since that day, I committed myself to this. And it's been rocky. There's been periods where I've been off the wagon and I went back out. But deep down in my heart, I knew that I needed to be doing this and be sober. And November 3rd of 2019, I finally committed, and I said, look, this is for the rest of my life. And I've been sober since then. Yeah.
So the bald eagle moment, you describe it as kind of that God moment, like God just opening your eyes to hey, I'm here, I got you. Where does God play a role in your life at this time? I mean, was he, was it just a transactional relationship? Because, I really want to tap into the root of faith in this podcast, and I really want to share, our testimonies with the relationship with Christ. And so where does God at this point, 2019, or even before that, where does God play a role in your life?
He had always been a part, and I remember sitting in that dorm room at DePaul saying, God, please help me. I've had enough. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
I had just changed. I was trying to just change everything but myself, but my relationship with him.
Yeah.
God was always there, but he was just surface level.
Yeah, he had arm's length.
Hey, God, I need something. Yeah. Hey, let me pray. Or man, I'm homesick. Let me pray.
Yeah. And we're all guilty of that, man.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many distractions. You get caught up in this being able to help you, or this is going to be the answer. No, it's your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And for AA, it's the higher power. They call it that, but for me, it's God. Yeah. And I remember saying, God, please help me. And I think he sent me to the hospital twice in 17 days on purpose for me to learn about what alcoholism was.
Yeah.
And he smacked me across the face with it.
Oh, sure. And took you where you didn't want to go.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But it was what I needed.
In that moment, so, I mean, because I relate to, we talk about desert seasons in life, right, where you just feel hopeless and lost and you just no direction. You feel like you're out of touch with God, out of touch with yourself and your identity. I mean, so Montana, when you were there with the other young men, was there anybody there that you really connected with well, or did you feel, I mean, did your pride get in the way at any time where you didn't think you had, I mean, because they talk about addiction, right? And they said the biggest issue is just not coming to the admittance that you have a problem, right? So was it in Montana where you started to really speak that into existence, I do have a problem, or were you still kind of fighting that pride?
When I first got there, I was like, these guys aren't like me.
Yeah.
They've done meth and heroin and cocaine and all these things that
My
I had
sin
never.
is not as big as their sin,
Mine's not
right?
as big, but it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yet is the key word there. Yeah. If you have alcoholism and addiction, the key word is yet.
Yeah.
You just haven't hit rock bottom yet. And when it comes, you will get there.
Yeah.
It may not be your vice, but your vice is going to hit as hard as theirs. Yeah. And so there was, the ego is a great blocker of being able to see the truth. Yeah. And I was very delusional, I would just tell myself, after that phone call with my dad, it finally, I came clean to the counselor and I was like, I've done this and that and this and that. Yeah. Oh, so you are like these guys. And I was like, well, and it kind of just hit me I guess I am.
Yeah.
But once I was able to say that and accept that, it made me whole again.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And
And not to cut you off, but I think
No.
that's the biggest issue that we have as just human beings in general and believers. We all have vices. We all have things that we struggle with, and I know the sin that we live in it may look different, right? But it's still sin. And we get so caught up in this thing where, especially as men, right, where we have to hide behind the strength and we need to be bold and we need to be, let the emotions never get to us. And like you said, the biggest thing that blocks us from like taking that big step that we need is just stripping it down, being vulnerable, and just admitting that you need help.
Right.
And that, and realizing, I'm not alone in this process. You can't live life alone, nor can you live through a struggle alone, because, it's even with me and my story. I've had different vices and struggles along the way. And even within marriage nowadays, right, with my wife, Bree, I mean, we have to understand that, we're not the only married couple that's going through struggles. We're not the only parents that are going through struggles. I'm not the only athlete that's going through struggles in the locker room. Like, when you start speaking up and allowing yourself to be vulnerable with other people, that's when you realize, wow, you and I are a lot more alike than I thought, and how can we help each other? How can we hold each other accountable? And so it sounds like Montana was like your desert season where you were stripped down, kind of left alone, put in solitude, and you can only rely on like nature and God. And in those moments, God revealed some pretty powerful moments for you. And it seemed like your eyes were opened, right? And you had the help of others because you allowed yourself to connect, right?
Yeah.
So talk about, I know like it's cool because it's like when you go to counseling or you go to these camps and these programs, like you make these huge strides within those environments. But how was it when you left Montana, you went back home, back to your comfort zone, back to your friends, back to the temptations? I mean, how was that for you?
I made it 9 months.
Yeah.
And one thing they talk to you about in recovery is don't date another girl.
Yeah.
Don't date in the first year.
Yeah.
And I didn't take that advice.
Yeah.
So I did. I dated somebody, and 9 months in, I was great. Straight A's at Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis, IUPUI, go Jags. And
Shoutout.
And I was doing great. I switched over to kinesiology, and that's kind of where I started this path of exercise science. I knew I had always wanted to pursue it, but I thought accounting was where the money was at. My dad did it.
Yeah.
So the money will be there if you find your purpose and your passion.
Yeah.
So that's one piece that I'll just throw in there real quick. And so I did it. I switched over to kinesiology, was happier than ever, but I started dating this girl. This girl was only in the program because she had a DUI here, a DUI there, violated house arrest.
A DUI here and there, no big deal, right?
No big deal.
Geez.
Yeah, exactly. But in my head, I'm like, no big deal at the time.
Yeah.
I was still delusional. I was still sick. I was still, this process of alcoholism, you don't just get sober and get better.
Yeah.
You got a lot of wounds you got to heal. You got a lot of emotional healing you have to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because the second you start your addiction is the second you stop growing as a normal human being, because you're coping, the way you cope with your emotions is by drugging and drinking.
Yeah.
And so those emotions, you stop.
Yeah.
You don't learn how to deal with them. So anyway, I'm sick, and I date this girl who was
sick too.
Very sick.
Yeah.
And so she starts drinking when she got her paper signed. She was good to go. And I was like, well, I'm like her. We're the same age. We're doing the same things. We're in school. Like, I've got A's. Like, and so I start drinking. And so that just starts this roller coaster. I'm telling some people I can drink. I'm telling others I can't. People are judging me. Like, I'm trying to hide it from some people. Tell people, it's just exhausting, man.
So you're just living with a mask on, right?
Yeah, and for 5 years, that's how it went.
Yeah.
Till I was 24 or 25.
Yeah.
And it was just so exhausting. But I needed to hit rock bottom again to like, and rock bottom can be different levels. Like, some people have to be homeless. Some people have to be kicked out of their parents' house. Some people got to, be divorced. Like, rock bottom looks different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank God your rock bottom wasn't the rock bottom that a lot of people experience.
I was able to raise my rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people look at me, they're like, no way you're an alcoholic. No way you're an addiction. Like, that can't be. You've been about, like, no, you don't know what it's like to live in this.
Yeah.
And it's not really what you're doing when you're drinking and drugging. It's what's going on in your mind when you're not. And so for me, I've got an allergy to alcohol.
Yeah.
And really what it is it's when I taste that, not even the taste, but when I feel that that kind of like calm feeling come over me, I now obsess about that feeling. I want more of it.
Yeah.
You know, 1 is too many and 1,000 is not enough.
Yeah.
And that's a really crazy saying, like, because that's me for everything.
Yeah.
1 is too many and 1,000's not enough.
Yeah.
And but it's been the people along the way that have really been able to, you know.
Sure.
To
So
share,
outside
share
of
that
like when you say like you get that taste and you get fulfilled and you get that like that urge just to keep going, what have you found to kind of fill that void? Has it been training? Has it been, you know, the newfound passion you found that fills that void of like what alcohol and drugs used to give you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's God. I mean,
Yeah.
God's the easy answer.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, at first, before drinking and drugging, it was football and the team.
Yeah.
Like that
the
was
camaraderie and the brotherhood. Yeah.
And then I didn't have that when I got injured, so I filled it with the drinking and drugging, and I got in the habit of that, and that just continued to go.
Yeah.
And then after that, yeah, it became my friends and the relationships I built through training. It was training itself for a while.
Yeah.
Where I turned to that. But those are all temporary things.
Sure.
Those are all
Yeah.
things that can die out. God will last forever.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Amen,
it's
brother.
hard because it's not tangible.
Yeah.
And you don't see it happen day to day.
Yeah.
When you get in the habit of it, you do.
Yeah.
But it's something that you have to be consistent with. You got to hit your knees every single day.
Yeah.
And you start to live with a conscious contact with God.
Well, it's the conviction.
It's yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then really, even to further that, it's who you surround yourself with.
Oh,
Because
wholeheartedly, yeah.
I see God in people, and I see God
Yeah.
in yourself, and
Yeah.
it raises my standard. Like when I'm around people like you,
Oh,
and I'm
sure.
around you,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, here we go, and I got to tighten up.
Yeah.
Like it raises my level of just who I am as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's the cliche thing, like iron sharpens iron, right? Everyone quotes that verse,
so
right?
true.
But it is so true because it's like, who do you seek wisdom from? You know, do you seek wisdom from somebody who constantly makes mistakes and just wants to tell you what you want to hear? Or do you seek somebody that's going to sharpen you from all different angles and give you the hard truth? And, you know, that's where me and my wife kind of butt heads. Like, she's the one that's always sharpening me by hitting me with the hard truth, right? And it's always the ones that we love the most that usually do that to us. And we butt heads because I get all frustrated and angry because she's telling me what I don't want to hear, right? She's not trying to fluff me up, and she's trying to just like hit me across the head with the hammer and be like, listen, like this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, or this is how you're acting, I don't like it, kind of thing. Or hey, look, those words I just heard come out of your mouth, like, you know, don't do it. You know, and I brought up the word conviction, and I think that is such a powerful word in the journey of faith and having a relationship with Christ, because similar to me, I grew up in the church. I knew who God was, but it was transactional. It was kind of like, you know, he's this mythical person above, like almighty power. But I felt like almost afraid. Like,
Yeah.
how do I pray? Like, what do I say? I need to do good. I need to do good deeds for him to like me and to love me and for me to get to heaven. And it was just through the ups and downs of life and coming into contact with different like disciples in my life and mentors who really helped me understand who God and who Jesus was. And it was the conviction in my life and my testimony that helped me go down the path I needed to go. Because, you know, in high school and college, loved to drink, loved to party, loved to smoke, loved to have sex, loved to do everything that was fun at any given time. And there was no conviction. I knew it was wrong, but that conviction never really hit my heart.
Yeah.
You know, and when I lived in the desert seasons of when life was difficult and I just had God to rely on, and my faith grew, the conviction also grew within my heart with certain things. And I think that's so important, and for people to understand, like, I know they talk about like you're the guilty conscience, and you know, when you hear that little voice in your head say, don't do that, you know, that sounds all good and whatnot, but it's, you know, when the Holy Spirit is working in you and the conviction hits your heart, man, it's almost like, dude, being hungover and coming out of a blackout is one thing, but to me, like the conviction that is placed, the heaviness on your heart through the conviction is even even more powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's helped me, turn away from the things that I needed to turn away from. So now for you, as we kind of navigate through this story, you go from, to college, you bounced around quite a bit, right? And that's a crazy story in itself. Like from different schools, back and forth from Indy to DePaul, to Holy Cross, to IU, IUPUI, Ivy Tech, you mentioned, right? So that's a lot of like movement, a lot of instability, right? And then you in and out of rehab, going sober for 9 months. Now you kind of hit rock bottom again. And what year was rock bottom number 2?
It kind of gets blurry from like 21 years old when I came home from rehab to like 24, 25.
Okay.
Because then I think I went out for maybe 2 months and I got sober for 6.
Okay.
And there was never really rock bottom yet again. Rock bottom happened November 2nd of 2019 in Nashville.
Okay, let's talk about that, man. So let's talk about your transition from Indy to Nashville. We already know why you came down here to pursue training. So let's talk about that November season here in Nashville.
Yeah, things were going well on the surface. I had left Klug and started my own thing.
Yeah.
And I had to grind for that because I was doing landscaping. I worked for Edley's. I was driving for Lyft and doing sessions as many as I could.
So let's set it straight right now. Is Edley's the best barbecue in town, or
I think Martin's is. After being in the back of that kitchen, I don't think you want to go to Edley's.
Oh dang! So Martin's got it.
No, Edley's. I still go to Edley's. But
Edley's is very good, but Martin's is pretty good too.
I think Martin's is good. It depends on what you like. I think if you like hot chicken, you got to go Edley's. If you like wings, you got to go Martin. Martin's has the best wings and ribs, I think.
Yeah. I just had their wings the other day at a golf tournament. Fire.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah.
Dry rub?
It was a dry rub with like, they had like this weird kind of like sriracha type barbecue, hot sauce thing. Fire though.
You got to come to my smoker though at my house.
Okay.
Because I can make a mean wing out.
Let's go. So we got a little off track there, but we just wanted to touch on Edley's because barbecue is so big down here in Tennessee.
Yes.
But so go. You had a bunch of different jobs, and
and then I actually build like a solid clientele.
Yeah.
But I'm still drinking. I'm still drugging, and gosh, I'd have like a bottle of wine or a 6-pack of IPAs or a 5th of whiskey each night. It wasn't every night, but it was like 3 to 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
It was very consistent. And I'd come in, I'd be chugging a Bang, an energy drink the next morning, and just trudge through the morning, and just can't wait for that 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock whenever I'd get off to. Yeah. I'd have to go drive for Lyft for a little bit.
Okay.
Just to make enough money to go buy dinner and the alcohol.
Yeah.
And that to me is nuts. Like I literally would just get in the car and drive just enough so I have just enough money, like to the cent. I knew how much it cost.
Yeah.
To go buy what I wanted just to get high or drunk that night.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
That's
and sometimes
wild,
I got to a point where I'm like, I finished my last session because I was still concierge. I was going to people's houses. I'm like, I'm going home. I'm not going to the gas station. I'm not going to the liquor store.
Yeah.
And I'd be in a liquor store, and I don't know what that, like, it's nuts, man. And I'd sit there, I'm like, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in. And I'm opening up the door to my car, and I'd go in the liquor store.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, here we go. And as soon as I took that first drink, I was like, Like
down the rabbit hole we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it feels like. Like, I've made it. Like,
Now it was like, because there's a lot of temptation here. I mean, there's temptation everywhere, but in particular Nashville, right? You go from Indy to Nashville. It's two different like social scenes, right? You have Broadway, you have Midtown here, you have, the East Side. You have a lot of stuff going on. It's, we have Vanderbilt, so it's a big college town. You have Belmont. So being a young guy in your 20s, single, and like, do you think, were you on Broadway? Were you just going down there? Were you going to the bars in Midtown? I mean, or were you just drinking at home?
Eventually, no, because I knew I wasn't supposed to, and so I just stay at home.
Yeah.
As sad as that was.
Yeah. Just by yourself, or did you have a group of friends that you would?
At times, it was by myself.
Yeah.
Me and Netflix, or me and a sports game. Like, the best was when I could just watch football, watch a basketball game by myself and get tipsy, get drunk. But that was, training kind of kept me on the straight and narrow.
Because you knew you had to get up the next morning.
I knew I had to get up early the next morning, and so I was like, if I go out, I'm not getting back till 2, and it's over. Like, I was very disciplined to still show up for everybody.
Sure.
I never like straight away. There was probably 3 times where I was either late or didn't show.
Yeah.
In my whole career, the last 9 years.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I am on time every single time.
Yeah, you
but,
are.
Yeah, I went to Broadway, and the worst thing about it was one time I woke up on Broadway.
Yeah.
At 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my keys. I didn't have anything. I run 2.1 miles back home to the apartment complex, and some dude was taking his dog out, and I was like, "Hey man, can you let me in?" So he lets me in, but my door's still locked, so I had to bust down my door to get in.
Yeah.
Luckily, it did it easily. It didn't break anything. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Long story short, my buddy who I was out with the night before goes to get gas the next day.
Yeah.
He's calling me at the same time, and as on the gas station attendant desk is my phone lighting up.
Really?
He's like, "Hey, that's my buddy.
Oh my gosh,
Can I take that phone?" And so sure enough, that's how I found my phone. And I say that because for most people, that would scare them out of doing that again.
Yeah.
It didn't. But anyway, to hit rock bottom, it got to, my birthday was in October, and my fiance, she had my best friends from Indiana come and surprise me on November 1st and 2nd.
So how long? So Lauren, your now fiance is in the picture, right? You guys are dating. How long were you guys dating when this was kind of occurring?
This was only like
pretty new.
Yeah, this was still new. This was within the year.
Okay.
And she had my best friends. It was probably, no, I take that back. It was a year and 2 months.
And at this point, did she know anything about what you've been through with sobriety
she knew,
and rehab?
Yes.
And you were transparent with her?
Transparent enough. I wasn't transparent that I was still currently drinking.
Yeah, okay.
She thought I was she thought I was sober.
Okay.
She would go to bed and I would sneak it.
Okay.
And so we get into a little tiff. I'm like, I'm going to McDonald's. So I go to McDonald's. I do go to McDonald's, but I go to the liquor store too.
Yeah.
And I put a 5th in the McDonald's bag on my way back home.
Okay.
I'm ready to drink when I get back home.
Yeah.
Full intention of doing that. I go back into apartment. Boom! Out pops my friends, my boys from back home, and their girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happy.
Yeah.
Like, I was happy, but I was like,
they ruined the moment.
How can I drink? How can I?
Because
they're gonna catch me.
Because they knew that
they know that I'm not supposed to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. My boys from back home.
Yeah.
From day one, they know I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
And so I was just in my head. It's that wheels get spinning again, and I'm just obsessing.
Yeah.
How can I do it? So anyway, I don't do it that night, so I'm irritable.
Yeah.
But they're there to celebrate me, and I can't be happy.
Yeah.
And the next day, we go to George Jones' Rooftop on Broadway.
Yeah.
Well, I said I was going to the liquor store to get my boy some whiskey. Why is the sober guy going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, because he's getting a bunch of bottles, small bottles, so he can bring with him shooters.
Yeah.
So I bring 5 shooters with me, and I get drunk that night.
Yeah.
That was the last night I've ever gotten drunk.
Yeah.
Last night I ever tasted alcohol, November 2nd. And I woke up the next day, and I was so remorseful. When they left, I was like, wait. I didn't get to spend any time with them.
Yeah.
In my head, but I was with them the whole weekend.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, I didn't even get to spend time with them.
It just wasn't intentional time because you were so like caught up in.
So many times that happened with my family. So many times that happened with Lauren.
Yeah.
With my grandparents, and I sit there and I think, man, how many more times do I have to do that?
Yeah.
And so I needed to make those count, and that's what did it for me, man. It makes me emotional now, but. Yeah, November 3rd, I got a sponsor, and for 30 days, I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I just went to a meeting every single day, and I met with him.
Okay.
And at my 30-day token, I told Lauren, hey, before this, I was drinking. Hey, Mom and Dad, before this, I was drinking.
Yeah.
I wasn't honest. I need to get honest.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anybody else until I got a year sober. Once I got a year sober, I told my clientele, and I told, social media type stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did, because I've been able to help so many people because of it.
Yeah.
So many people's parents, so many people's siblings. Hey, what do I do? Are they alcoholic, or where? How do I go? How do I navigate this? The only thing I can say is what I did.
Yeah.
And if that helps people, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you posting that picture on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
That was like 2 years ago now, almost.
Yeah, it's 2 years and 6 months as of 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah. So I mean, congratulations to you for making this far, man. I know the story's not over, right? It's like it's always a constant work in progress for you.
Yeah.
And but being open and vulnerable to, I mean, it sounds so dumb that you have to post something on Instagram, but really like it's big. It's a big step for you because you publicly announce like the struggles that you've been going through, where you're at today, and that picture in particular. I remember seeing it and you kind of talking about it more in depth with me when I saw you the next day. But like when I look at that photo, and you know this, like when I look at that photo, like that just looks like maybe Justin several years ago before I met him, you know. But when you look at that photo, like you don't even like recognize yourself. That's just a different bad version of who you once were, right?
Yeah, it's not even the physical stuff that I see. I just see
But the look in your
struggling.
eye, yeah, the look in your eyes, and just like the lifeless face, you know, and like the depression, and I mean,
yeah,
you know,
I had just gotten in an argument with my dad. They had just caught me drinking at the lake house.
Yeah.
And
so in that moment, what prompted you to take that photo?
I said, I never want to forget this feeling. I never want to feel like this again.
Because you were worn out.
Yeah, but the bad part is, man, it took more.
Yeah.
It took more beatings.
Yeah.
But I think it has to. If you want to get to where you want to go, you're going to have to keep going through it.
Oh, sure.
It took more to, you know, one is not enough and thousands too many.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. But it's, I'm very grateful to have gone through all those things now.
Yeah.
Because for me, as an alcoholic, as somebody who's accepted it for the rest of their life, and I'm a proud alcoholic, like it sounds very cliche and it sounds like I'm in a freaking cult, but it's what helps me get better, and it's what helps me gives me purpose.
Yeah.
I know what my demons are.
Yeah.
And I pray that other people are able to find theirs too, because a lot of people, man, they go to the grave still trying to fight them.
Yeah.
And for me, of course, I'm going to struggle. What my problem is bring God into everything, not just my sobriety. Bring God into, show him the whole house.
Yeah.
Show him the whole house, not just what I want him to see.
Amen, bro. Preach.
And I mean, I can't take credit for that. That's, you know, I'm getting married in a week and a half, 10 days.
Countdown is on,
and so
bro.
the pastor, my sports chaplain from high school, he's doing the wedding.
Yes.
And he has been preaching to me, show him the whole house. And gosh, it's hard.
It's hard. Dude, it is so hard. And when you, and it's almost like, it almost sounds impossible that you can ever reveal the whole house that you live in, right? And, you know, for me, there's closets that I know that I still have closed. I don't want people to know what's behind that door.
Yeah.
I don't want my wife to know what I struggle with, you know? I don't want to, you know, I want to portray it to be this one version of me, but I'm not always living that life. You know, that's what, like social media, right? It's like everyone's living behind that lens. Like, this is my life. It's always good. It's always good. It's always good. But everyone's struggling with something, right? And so it's really, I've never heard it said that way, like, show your whole house. I mean, that's pretty cool. So, but it makes so much sense because, we have so many things packed in like little nooks and crannies and of struggle, whether it's under the rug, whether it's, you know, up in the basement, down in the basement, up in the attic. So let's talk about like Lauren. All right. I mean, obviously you guys are getting married. Congratulations. So honored to be in your wedding with you, man, and celebrate the huge day because it's so cool. But how incredible has Lauren been to your journey, to your sobriety? I know you guys kind of started off with a little rough patch, but to this point, like, where do you see your life without her? I mean, can you even imagine what it would be like? And man, just talk about that a little bit.
No, I don't want to imagine that. No, she's my rock, man.
Yeah.
I mean, God's my rock, but she's my little pebble. She holds me together. She tells me exactly what you just said about Bree. She tells me what I don't want to hear, but I need to hear it.
Yeah.
She's the backbone of my family. You know, I don't know how she's able to do it, but she works a full-time job, but like runs the house like it's like she's there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how she does it. We've got a little Rottweiler and 6 months, and you know, she takes care of him like it's her own.
Yeah.
Little baby. You know, she wants kids on the way, and she's going to be the best mom in the world, and I can't wait to see that. And gosh, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without her.
Yeah.
She's everything to me.
What are the emotions now that the countdown's on? What, 10 days away, you said?
10, yeah. She just texted me an hour ago.
What is the emotions going through your mind, your heart, man? What's it feel like leading up to your wedding now that it's so close? I'm
so excited. I get to marry my best friend.
Yeah, that's so important.
And I have a lot of friends who are older, like yourself, and who have gotten to do this, and I've got their support. And so to see that they're all going to be at this one place supporting us, they have a huge part in us staying together, because it was very rocky from at one point. And
well, then you throw in the long distance,
and she moved off to Scottsdale for a year, and it was at that point that I knew I didn't want to live without her. It was at that point that I said, I'm going to marry this girl, and it took me. She wanted me to propose a lot earlier. Anyway.
We don't need to go down that. we all. I mean, Bree wished that I would have proposed a year or two before too as well, but
it was perfect timing.
It's all about timing. Yes.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be here today without her.
Yeah. So how, talking about, sobriety to this point, and I mean, it's you make it so clear too. It's like, I'm not drinking. I'm never going to take another sip of alcohol again. We just went on your bachelor party about, 3 weeks or a month ago to Arizona. And when people think bachelor party, it's like, oh, let's just get my boys together and we are going to party our, off.
Yeah.
And we're going to get after it. And we went to Scottsdale, and it's like, geez, Scottsdale's got some of the best party scenes there is.
Yep.
But dude, we did something completely different, right? You invited your best friends who still drink, who still smoke, but they're your best boys. They support you in your sobriety.
Oh, yeah.
And we went there, and dude, drinking and partying was the last thing on our minds, because we spent 3 days hiking Sedona, and we went to the Superstition Mountains. We went to Camelback, and dude, we were on a 3-day grind.
Yeah,
bro.
We did 20 miles in 3 days.
We did, man. It was so cool, but I think just in the moment, right? It was hard because we were just like, we're hiking all day. We go back to the house, hang out, jump in the pool, play basketball, whatever, work out or whatever, and go to sleep because we're waking up early the next day. But man, it's just so cool that like you have the friends and family that support you. They don't tempt you with like, hey man, just have one. Come on, man. This is your bachelor party, man. Live it up, man. You're only single for, like that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And I just thought it was so cool, man. You have some of the coolest best friends. Your dad was there, your brother was there. That just support you in your mission, man. Like, and that's so important, because when people have these struggles with either with sobriety or just certain addictions, there's just, you have to cut people off in your life.
Yeah.
And for you've managed to, keep some of your best friends to this day that you had back in high school when you were struggling,
right?
In your darkest days.
Oh, yeah.
So man, I thought it was just so cool. I was honored to be there. But it was so cool just to see the dynamic that you have with your best friends, because I have a very similar group of boys, man, that mean the world to me, that always support me. But it was just cool that like there was never a position that you were in that was like, hey, trying to nudge you, hey, let's go out tonight. Oh, hey, let's go drink, let's go smoke.
No.
Man, so that was awesome, man. Arizona was cool. I was so sore on my way back. My feet were killing me.
You went to go train.
Dude, how cool was it getting to the top of like the Flatiron Rock and Superstition Mountains, man?
It's one of the coolest feelings in the world. It's like everything, they call it the flow state.
Yeah.
And it's where nothing else matters except a step right in front of you, and where you can just literally lock in completely. Yeah. That's why I love hiking. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring you guys out there. Yeah. I got to experience those mountains a lot with Lauren out in Scottsdale. Yeah. And they just bring me so much life. They make me feel alive. They make me feel present. And a lot of when I was drinking and drugging, I wasn't present. And so anything that can put me right where my feet are, like right now, I'm not thinking of anything else, even during this podcast, this conversation with you. Put the phone down, it's right where my feet are. And
that's cool, man.
It just connects me back to what really matters.
Absolutely.
And we got to experience a lot of that in Scottsdale.
Oh, man. Sedona was cool. It was manageable. Camelback was a challenge because we literally just got off the flight. Plane. Changed and went straight there. And unbeknownst to me, like I didn't know what to experience. I thought it would be a casual, like everyone posts on Instagram, all the girls are doing it, all the like it's a cool trendy thing to do in Scottsdale, like hike Camelback and take photos, right? But dude, it was like
it's legit.
It was a grind. And coming from, Tennessee, the weather is like, 20 to 25 degrees hotter. And dude, but then day 3, Superstition was like almost 7 hours straight.
Got to people. Yeah.
That one was a beast.
Yeah, it was.
And I just remember, first of all, like you can kind of see Flatiron from a distance. You're like, oh, it's far, but it's not too far.
Yeah.
It's like being on the Vegas Strip. Like,
Exactly.
hey man, just meet me down at the Wynn, and the Wynn is like 5 miles away.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what it kind of felt like. You just kept going. It just never seemed like you were getting any closer. But making it to the top was surreal. It's like you're on the top of the world.
Yeah.
And then the way back down was like, for me, I felt like the way down was even harder.
It was.
Just because like it seems longer, you know, because
and
you're
you
tired.
have nothing to look forward to because you're like, I've already seen everything.
Yeah, and you're fatigued, and you're like, oh, like I think I'm halfway, and like you're not even close.
And you
to
forgot
halfway.
about another stretch of like a mile. Yeah.
But I just remember looking back, and off in the distance, I can see Flatiron, and I'm like, we made it to that peak, and then we went to the highest peak, which was like another,
which wasn't even a part of the trail.
Yeah, and it was like. It just felt like you conquered something. You accomplished something. We did it as a group.
And everybody did it. And a lot of people doubted themselves. Like, a couple of the guys had to train for that alone because they hadn't been training at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that sparked them, which was really cool to see that they took ownership of that. And now they're, they've got office jobs and they're not football players.
Well, it's just
anymore.
cool that they bought into the weekend and never once like said, I don't want to do this today. I'm going to stay back, man. You guys go ahead. Like everyone was all in, man. That was cool.
Everybody was.
So as we wrap this thing up, man, like, for somebody who's listening or, hopefully there's a handful of people who are really like taking notes of this because this is them in that moment of darkness and struggle. And, first and foremost, we want to let them know that like they're not alone in their struggle. What would you tell, those people who may be listening that are just struggling with something very similar to what you've gone through? What would be like the first step that if you could tell your younger self, like, hey, this is like what you need to do first, and then here's the second step. Maybe just like pour some wisdom into them, man. What would you say?
Honestly, it's as simple as pray.
Yeah.
Because I go back and I look at what sparked getting help.
Yeah.
And that was asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was asking God to remove these obsessions, to remove this pain, remove this being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I prayed and I didn't do it enough. Like, because I was scared. I didn't know what that would require.
Yeah.
Because that work that it would take to get better was going to be a lot.
Yeah.
But it's one day at a time. Mm-hmm. And you got to stress one day at a time. If you just do it for today, you can string 365 of them together.
Yeah.
But you got to do it one day at a time. And number two, it's just reach out to help.
Yeah.
Reach out for help.
Yeah.
Call me, text me, find somebody that knows me or just find me. I would love to help.
Yeah. And I want people to know that through this podcast, like we're an open book, and myself included with, the guests we have on, like, we'll tag the socials and you can DM and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But please feel free to reach out with any concerns, any problems, any situation you may be facing. And hopefully that we can help, man. And that's what it's all about, is just being able to have this platform to share testimony, having people willing to listen to it, and just discipling people on the way, man, because we all go through struggles. We all go through, and the story's not even over. This is just life, and we know that storms are coming. It's just all about how you prepare for the storms and how the foundation that you set before yourself, because it's not about, if a storm comes, it's when, and so it may look different.
Yeah.
It may be bigger, or it come at you in a different way, but it's just going to hit you at some point. And it's all about just being armored up and being prepared for those moments. So, the stay ready thing for me, it started, back in 2017. It's like hashtag stay ready, because I'm a free agent. I'm preparing. That team may call at any moment. And it was so like surface level, meaningful to me. And now, 5 years later, like stay ready to me is like, it's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's not even just about like football. It's about staying ready in the moment, right? Staying ready for, a door closing or opening, staying ready to help somebody and serve, or help my wife, help my daughter. And just staying ready for God's divine appointments, and again, sometimes that's the door closing and sometimes it's the door opening. To you, man, like, when you hear stay ready, and you've been around me long enough, what is it mean to you? Or what do you think of when you think of like Stay Ready?
For me, I think of all the youth and the high schoolers and middle schoolers that I work with, being able, so I talk to their parents, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
I go through their parents, and they are giving me their kids to work with and to make them better.
Yeah.
They trust me. Most of the time, they drop their kid off or they let their kid go with me. They trust me with their kid. And so to me, Stay Ready means be ready for that kid to talk about something real.
Yeah.
Be ready for that kid to talk about bullying. Be ready for that kid to talk about them seeing alcohol for the first time at a party. Be ready for that kid to tell me about the struggles that they have with their coach or whatever it is, because it's greater than one. It's greater than any workout. So I have to be on. I have to be ready. And I'm so happy and thankful that I went through these struggles of alcoholism, that I get to deal with that so that I can help eating disorders, whatever.
Yeah.
I may not know exactly how, but I can find them people that do. And at least we can
relate.
We can relate on some level.
Yeah.
And so Stay Ready means be ready for whatever happens, and especially with the younger people, because I really want to help. I was given so much as a young kid from my trainer and from just the coaches and mentors and my father and my parents. I want to be able to give that back to them.
Yeah.
And it was greater than workouts. It was bigger than that.
Yeah, and that's the role that a coach plays, man. I tell you what, like, coaching seems so like insignificant. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to go volunteer my time and be with these kids and help them learn the fundamentals, techniques of a certain sport or skill. But I don't think people quite realize sometimes like the impact that they have, because this may be the only mature adult that these kids are around, throughout the day, outside of maybe the teacher. Their household may not have those figures. The mom or the dad or both may be gone, whether it's work, whether they're struggling with addiction, or it's just a broken home in general, and they don't have the guidance, they don't have the mentorship, they don't have anybody older pouring wisdom into them. So the role that you have as a coach is so significant and it's so impactful, because these kids will remember that for the rest of their lives. And I remember coaches from back when I was 8 years old, good and bad.
Right.
And so the role that you have, man, it's a big role, and it's like a teacher. It's like a caregiver. I mean, the role seems so insignificant, at the moment, but like, man, you are changing lives daily with your sobriety and your message and your testimony, man. So I encourage you to keep sharing, keep being vulnerable, keep being an open book, keep pouring out to people. I know you're going to keep doing that, and you always know that you have me as a brother, man, to always, come to with struggles, and you for me as well. And I just appreciate you. I love you, and I thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and your story's not over yet. And I'm so excited to see the new chapter that's about to begin with you and Lauren getting married next week. So excited to witness that day and be a part of it. Bree and I are so grateful for the friendships that we have with you guys, and just thank you for being an awesome trainer and kicking myself into new gear, because I'm gonna play till I'm 40, dude. So we gotta keep going. Yes, let's go. But thanks again, man. I love you so much. God bless, and thanks guys for tuning in. And
thank you so much.
I hope that you enjoyed the very first episode, and there's gonna be much more coming soon. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to Stay Ready, the podcast. If you liked today's episode, please comment below, like, and subscribe to our channel. I appreciate you all. We'll see you next time, and stay ready.